Dumfries, July 12th, 1796. My dear cousin, when you offered me money assistance, little did I think I should want it so soon. A rascal of a haberdasher, to whom I owe a considerable bill, taking it into his head that I am dying, has commenced a process against me, and will infallibly put my emaciated body in jail.
Robert Burns achieved more with his poetry than any writer since Shakespeare. With poems about the ordinary world, he inspired everyone from Byron to Beethoven. To this day, his birthday is celebrated all around the world. In his own lifetime, he was famous beyond belief, rock star famous, and acclaimed as a genius. But dead in this house just 2 weeks after writing a begging letter.
Will you be so kind as to accommodate me by return of post with £10? Ah, James, did you know the pride of my heart you would feel doubly for me? Alas, I'm not used to beg.
So what brought Robert Burns, the greatest man of his age, to the point where he would die a beggar? When I look at this letter and see him begging a cousin for money to pay off a rascal of a haberdasher right at the end of his life, I feel heart sore for him. He was a man desperate to the end, fulfilling his father's grave warning that he might fail in life. And it raises a question, what is it about Robert Burns? What is it about genius? What is it about his character, fame itself, in fact, that could cause this man to fail? I think one of the reasons people love Robert Burns is because his work speaks to them so personally. I'm Andrew Hagan, a writer born and brought up in Burns country. And this is a journey to the heart of my Robert Burns, a search for what made my favourite writer into what he was, and to find his raw spirit here in the everyday places that inspired him and that still pulse with life today.
Once I loved a bonny lass, aye, and I love her still. And whilst that virtue warms my breast, I love my handsome Nell. As bonny lassies I hae seen, and mony full as braw, but for a modest graceful mien, the like I never saw.
Robert Burns' first discovery as a writer was intensely personal, inspired by a girl he met in the fields.
You know our country custom of coupling a man and a woman together as partners in the labours of harvest. In my 15th autumn, my partner was a bewitching creature, a year younger than myself. My scarcity of English denies me the power of doing her justice in that language. But you know the Scotch idiom. She was a bonny, sweet, sonsy lass.
A gaudy dress and gentle air may slightly touch the heart, but 'tis innocence and modesty that polishes the dart. 'Tis this in Nelly pleases me, 'tis this enchants my soul, for absolutely in my breast she reigns without control.
That was Robert Burns' first ever poem, written when he was only 15. Not bad for a 15-year-old, but there's no way that his gigantic reputation would have been made by that poem alone. What it was, though, was a start. It was also the result of years of study. Despite a lowly station in life, Burns' father insisted that his children were educated. But just after writing Handsome Nell, Burns and his family fell heavily into debt and were almost forced from their home by a cruel landlord.
My father's generous master died, and to clench the misfortune we fell into the hands of a factor. My indignation yet boils at the scoundrel Factor's insolent, threatening letters which used to set us all in tears.
It was something he would never forget. It might even be a key to understanding the man Burns would become. His head filled with poetry and learning, young Robert Burns grew restless to escape the small farming life, but didn't quite know how.
The great misfortune of my life was to want an aim. I saw that my father's situation entailed on me perpetual labour. In my 17th year, to give my manners a brush, I went to a country dancing school.
This village of Tarbolton became the focus of young Burns' social life, and the girls of the parish filled his teenage imagination.
My heart was completely tender and was eternally lighted up by some goddess or other. And, as in every other warfare in this world, my fortune was various.
Burns also sought relief from the toil of the fields in the company of other spirited young men. He became the central figure in a group who were as hungry for life and for ideas as he was. They organised themselves into a club called the Tarbolton Bachelors' Club, and their aims were to forget their cares and labour in mirth and diversion. They rented out this room and turned it into their very own debating chamber. For generations of poetry lovers, Robert Burns was the ultimate sentimentalist. He represented all the virtues of the rural hearth and home, of the simplicity of poverty. But in actual fact, Burns was a radical. Both in sexual and political terms, he believed in improvement and openness and freedom. Here in Tarbolton at the Bachelors' Club, he would sit down with like-minded young men, and they would raise and debate some of the great controversial topics of their day. And they did so in a spirit of self-improvement, of openness. They wanted change, and they didn't want the dark instruction of the church to darken down their own particular needs for freedom. Burns grew eloquent as a maker of radical arguments and a maker of rhymes. Rhymes that were drawn from life. A shire is world enough, wrote Shakespeare, and for Burns it was Ayrshire. This pub in Mauchline is the dead centre of his universe. Marion, have a whiskey, please.
A whiskey.
Burns was a genius at taking the carnival of life he encountered in ordinary places like this village pub and transforming it into art of the highest order. The Jolly Beggars, one of his neglected masterpieces, was inspired by the goings-on here, back when this place was more than just a lively local.
This is the Jolly Beggars' House. It was a place of all repute. It was a brothel at the time of Burns. The upper class would like to think that Burns was never in this establishment. We all know better than that.
The Jolly Beggars is more of a mini opera than a poem, a sort of beggar's opera that celebrates life at the very bottom of society. I've come along tonight to hear a raucous rendition being performed in the very place that originally inspired it.
And now I must beg with a wooden arm and leg.
And now I must beg with a wooden arm and leg, and many a tattered rag hanging o'er my bum. I'm as happy with my wallet, my bottle and my callet, as when I used in scarlet to follow the drum. In the Jolly Beggars, the people that he shows are rough and ready.
Rough and ready, aye.
Would you say the clientele had changed much over the years?
No, really.